This is the latest in a tumultuous sequence of events triggered nearly a month ago. On the evening of August 9th, in a sprint car race at the Canandaigua Motorsports Park in upstate New York, Stewart and Kevin Ward Jr. had an on-track incident. Ward exited his car and while walking on the track was struck by Stewart's car. Ward sustained fatal injuries. The following day, while the Ontario County Sheriff's Department continued investigating the incident, Stewart withdrew from the Sprint Cup race at Watkins Glen and was replaced by Regan Smith. The next day in Michigan, next race in Michigan, Stewart sat out again. This time, Jeff Burton took over the 14 car. Burton filled in for a second straight week in Bristol last week as Stewart once again elected not to race. That brings us to this weekend. On Friday, for the first time since the incident, Stewart addressed the media in Atlanta, and here's his entire statement.
This has been one of the toughest tragedies I've ever had to deal with, both professionally and personally. And this is something that will definitely affect my life forever. This is a sadness and a pain that I hope no one ever has to experience in their life. With that being said, I know that the pain in the morning that Kevin Ward's family and friends are experiencing is something that I can't possibly imagine. I want Kevin's father, Kevin Sr., and his mother, Pam, and his sisters, Christy and Kayla and Caitlin, to know that every day I'm thinking about them and praying for them. The racing community is a large family, as you guys know, and everyone's saddened with this tragedy. I want to thank all my friends and family for their support through this tough emotional time. And the support from the NASCAR community, my partners, all of our employees has been overwhelming. I've taken the last couple weeks off out of respect for Kevin and his family, and also to cope with the accident in my own way. It's given me the time to think about life and how easy it is to take it for granted. I miss my team, my teammates, and I miss being back in the race car. And I think that being back in the car this week with my racing family will help me get through this difficult time. I also understand that all of you have many questions and want a lot of answers, but however, I need to respect the ongoing investigation process and cannot answer and address the questions this time. Emotionally, I'm not sure if I could answer them anyway. I'm here to race this weekend, and I appreciate your respect, and there will be a day when I can sit here and answer the questions. Thank you.
It was an emotional statement for sure. Shortly thereafter, he put on his fire suit, headed to the garage where he received support from some drivers. Kurt Busch gave him a hug. He wasn't the only one. Several drivers greeted Stewart before he climbed in the race car and got back to work. It marked the first time since early August at Watkins Glen Stewart was behind the wheel of a Sprint Cup car. And upon turning laps, Stewart showed solid performance, posting the 10th fastest lap in practice 1. In qualifying, he managed to make it to the final segment and will start 12th tonight. In practice Saturday, he continued to look solid. He was 15th fastest in the second practice and 18th in final practice, but he'll have some work to do to get to the front tonight. And for more on this story, we're going to go down to the garage and bring in our lead reporter, Marty Smith, who has been covering this story since it began. Marty, what was the reaction inside the garage from Stewart's peers to his return?
Immediate acceptance and appreciation, Mike. They welcomed him back with grace. They championed his passion as a racer, and they championed his compassion as a man. And above all, to a man and a woman, I talked to Danica Patrick as well, they said this above all: he is exactly where he belongs, with us in Atlanta, racing.
Besides his mom, his dad, his sister, his niece and nephew, his family is here. It's at this racetrack. And I think it's just part of the healing process, being with this family that he's been with since 1999.
I can't imagine what he's been through, and I thought that his statements today were well thought out. As Tony's friend, I certainly feel sorry for him, and I understand he's been through a very difficult time, but my real priority is the Ward family. My real concern is there and the tragic loss that took place weeks ago.
Very supportive of having him back, and I know based on watching the press conference how emotional this has been for him, and I do think that the best thing for him is to be in that race car.
As you get around the people that you've been around the majority of your life over the last 20 years, there's some sense of normalcy, I guess you could say, in how you operate and the things that you do. Racing to him, it's not like myself that has a wife and a son. For Tony, it is everything that he does.
I asked Kevin Harvick as well, Mike, what it meant for the sport that Tony Stewart is back. And he said to me, Marty, I don't care about the sport right now. My chief concern is making sure that my friend, Tony Stewart, starts the healing process in what Harvick called a, quote, tragic situation. Mike?
Thank you, Marty, and tragic in so many different ways. Joined inside the pit studio by Hall of Famer Rusty Wallace and car owner Brad Doherty. And gentlemen, this return to racing has received an emotional response across the board. What was your reaction?
Well, number one, Mike, my thoughts are definitely with Kevin Ward Jr. and his family. I mean, that's what's on everybody's mind right now. I'm echoing whatever people are talking about in the garage area. They keep talking about the family, and I am too. Although Tony's been gone for 3 weeks right now. He's been grieving, but I have talked to a lot of his employees. He's got 275 employees back in North Carolina and family members that really rely on Tony Stewart being at the racetrack, and they need him back in that car. And I do agree. I think that Tony being back in the car is going to help heal, no doubt about that. But the team wants him back. I'm glad he's back, Mike. We'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, I agree with Rusty. And when I first heard that Tony was going to be at the racetrack this week, I kind of reacted like, oh, no, this is going to be so challenging. It's probably not the appropriate time. And then as I thought about it, I realized that my opinion was shaped on all of the voices and all of the talk and all of the people who have an opinion. And as I sat and thought about it, I realized those people don't matter. And when I finally heard the voice that really matters, that's Tony Stewart's voice, and when I heard him talk and speak the words and read the statement, I heard the contrition in his voice. I saw the pain. I could almost feel the remorse that Tony Stewart has, and the disturbing event that took place that's going to alter his life as well. I could feel that, and I could see that, and it changed my opinion. And so if Tony Stewart comes to this racetrack because he is trying to seek out what he decries as being normal and being a race car, then we can't fault him for that. And if it helps him take a step forward and move forward in this process, which is, like I say, catastrophic at best, then Godspeed for Tony Stewart, and we're behind him 100%.
That's great insight. Let's get some more perspective by going upstairs to Alan Bestwick, Dale Jarrett, and Andy